pleasure to be a part of KingMakers IAS Academy to carry forward the legacy in Delhi as well.
Thank you.
Very happy, sir. And I was actually listening to all what you were telling to the students. Indeed, getting trained from the best coaching centers, and most importantly, the one who really revamps the entire UPSC coaching is very important. So you are the right person who has been leading and promoting so many students and teachers. And I have been associated with you for so many years now. And once again, back to KingMakers at Delhi. At Delhi is indeed a great pleasure for me. Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Hi, hello, good morning, my young officers. I won't call you students, but rather young officers, because all of you who are appearing for the UPSC examination, who have decided to become the so-called IAS, IPS, IFS, IRS, is already an officer by heart. So instead of calling and addressing you as students, here I am to call you as my young officers. So it's indeed a great pleasure to talk to all of you with regard to the subject economy. As Bhuminathan sir said, I'm an expert in Indian economy and current affairs. And I have been teaching across India for past 9+ years with an experience, a rich experience of also mentoring 16 lakh plus students as well, guiding and helping them to clear the examinations. So in today's session, I'll quickly take you with regard to what economics is all about. So before understanding, or let's say going into the subject in detail, you must have a clear-cut understanding as to how to approach the subject called as economy, Indian economy, for UPSC prelims and mains. So normally we think that UPSC prelims examination and mains examination with regard to the subject economy is quite difficult. People say, yes, economics is technical, economics is tough. But let me correct you. Economics is technical, but economics is not tough. It depends upon the way we conceive the subject. So it's not just by hearting some concepts, or it is not just by hearting some points and writing it. UPSC demands an extensively different way of approach to this particular subject. Why I have said that is because as far as economy is concerned, it is very, very important to follow a new method of approach. And that is again exclusively brought in by me, keeping in mind the changing patterns of UPSC prelims and mains examination. These days, UPSC never asks you anything with regard to the static portion alone. It is all about the static plus the combination of that with the trending current affairs. So to all my aspirants, to all the young officers who are attending this session, a small advice to you is whenever you start studying economics, as Bhuminathan sir also said, point number 1, it should be having a clear-cut understanding of your fundamentals, which is none other than the basic NCERTs, which you have already covered in your schools and colleges. Now, having said that, when you start your economy, it's very important to follow a method of approach called as 3C approach. I repeat, 3C approach. You can just note it down. Why 3C approach is because the very first C stands for concept understanding. That you will be getting from the very basic textbook, that is NCERT. If you're finding difficulty in going through NCERTs, you can very well go with the state textbooks. But I also personally recommend a very easy textbook, a standard textbook to cover your basics to the point. And that is from ISC board, Indian School of Certificate Council of New Delhi. There is ISC economic textbook, a school textbook, put forward by an author called as Frank and Andrews. You can actually go through that book also if you feel NCERT is kind of having too many examples, or let's say if you feel that is quite bothersome for you, because some students prefer a different way of approach as well. So anything, whatever basics you go, the first C of the 3C approach stands with concept. After studying the concept, it is very important for you to understand why are you even studying this particular concept. So the second C from the 3C approach stands for connecting this concept to the comprehensive part of the syllabus, Let's say, for example, you will be studying about agriculture, you will be studying about inflation in your basic NCERTs. You know the concept? Now, why is that important? Because a major portion of that comes in your comprehensive part, both for prelims and mains. And now, after that, here comes the third C, which is the trending current affairs. Why I said trending current affairs is because normally people think that just by learning a concept, and just by connecting it with any current affairs out there will help you. No, ऐसा नहीं है. It is something else. Wherein, let's say, for example, you are appearing for 2024 examination. So now, last 1 year current affairs. To make it more simple, if you're appearing for 2024 prelims examination, 2023 June to 2023 April would be ideal for you to cover the current affairs. But I will recommend or suggest to start from 2023, the month of January as a whole. So what you can do is Jan, Feb, March, April, and May. A quick revision of, let's say, the current affairs of that particular month in the form of MCQs, multiple choice question, top 100 MCQs for the month of Jan, Feb, March, April, with a 360-degree coverage. You can follow that. And then the highlights of every month's current affairs in detail. From June, you can start. June 2023, you can start for your 2024 prelims examination. Now, this is the way you have to keep your current affairs preparation in mind. And now these current affairs pertaining or related to what you are studying with the concept has to be connected. So now this 3C method of approach called as concept plus comprehensive part plus strength in current affairs will definitely help you people to make sure that you are having a clear-cut understanding of the subject economy. And it is all about the exam-oriented preparation. It's not about you studying concepts. You are not here to get your PhDs. Rather, you're here to clear your examination. So what is that particular way? What is that particular way for you to clear the examination? That makes a lot of sense. So now, this 3C approach, along with the method of interlinkaging. So you will be thinking, what is this interlinkaging? So previously, when you study one particular concept, we study that and we leave it like that. But abhi to aisa nahi hai. It's not like that. You have to interlink them with the related concepts. So what happens? There is no need for you to keep by hearting the concepts or let's say the topics. Rather, you keep interlinkaging them from 1, 2, 3 like that. So a quick revision of everything happens. I'll give a small example to you. I hope everybody is well aware about the concept inflation. What is inflation? Which is happening in and around us, right? When there is a price rise, when the price of commodities slowly and gradually increases. In economics, technically we call it as inflation. When the price of tomato increased 2-3 months back from 20 rupees, it became 130 rupees. What is that called as? Price rise or inflation in economics. When the price of petrol shoots up or increases, what is that called? Inflation. So now, when there is a continuous or a persistent rise in general price level, in economics, we call that as inflation. Something is increasing, something is inflating. Now, this is what you will study in your NCERT. This is done. And now this is called as the concept of the 3C method, which I told you. Now, how do you connect with the next C, that is comprehensive part? If you see a syllabus, inflation is a very important topic of discussion. You cannot leave it. So what are the micro detailing topics that comes under that, which is important for you? You have to go through. And now connecting it with the current affairs. What is the current rate of inflation? What is happening in our country, India? Why such fluctuation? What is a targeted level of inflation? Like this, you will study with regard to current affairs perspective. Having said that, how can you connect this with the method of interlinkaging? Now, inflation, we studied. What is the impact of inflation? If prices keep on increasing, what happens? Automatically, you will not be able to bear the price rise because India consists of who all? It consists of people who literally is not of the rich category. Every category of people, majority is the poor population. So now when the price increases, definitely it has an impact on that population also. So let's say, for example, the issue of unemployment, which is a very, very big social issue. When people are not employed, will you get income? No, there is no income. When there is no income and there is inflation called as price rise in the economy for all the commodities, will you be able to purchase the commodities? No. So what happens? Your living standard decreases. When your living standard decreases, you end up in poverty. When you end up in poverty, what happens? The factor called hunger is coming. Again, that is shooting up the global hunger index, the rank of our country, India. When all these is coming up, again, what happens? Altogether, the per capita income of a person decreases. The country's GDP, gross domestic product, get affected. At the end of the day, growth and development will also be in a question mark. So this is called as method of interlinkaging. Starting from inflation, connecting to unemployment, to income, to poverty, to hunger, to GDP. So, and to growth, economic growth. This is how at a stretch you are supposed to do the method of interlinkaging, no matter economics, whatever other subject you study, be it your polity, be it your history, be it your governance, be it your art and culture, be it your science and tech, whatever it is. Is it clear? So this is how you should actually do the method of interlinkaging. And this will definitely help you. This will definitely help you to greater extent. I hope it is very clear for you people. Because before starting with economics or before starting with the topic, it is very important for you to know a proper strategy or an approach, how to make your preparation more simplified. So kindly follow this 3C method and also the method of interlinkaging. Believe me, my young officers, this will definitely help you to keep your preparation at its best. Now, having said that, back to economy. Point number 1, of course, the fundamentals, NCERT. So how do you study NCERT? You will study NCERT by reading this textbook or by hearting it? No. Let me give a small example to you. People start with class 11, class 12 NCERT. People tend to ignore class 9 and 10 of economy NCERT. But I will tell you to start from the scratch itself. Start from class 9, 10, then 11 and 12. Why? Because that gives you a proper base. Not everybody is from economics background. So understanding it from the scratch will help you. To make it more simplified, let me tell you something. If you open your class 9 Indian economy, NCERT, chapter 1, the chapter is called as what? The story of village Palampur. So now you can just check it. It has around 16 to 19 pages. So now this 16 to 19 pages, no need of spending half an hour or 1 hour for it. Chodo, leave it. Rather, you will not require more than 7 to 9 minutes for completing one particular chapter, including the method of interlinkaging and the 3C approach of connecting with current affairs. That is the way you should study it. Because when you study NCERT as a UPSC aspirant, the way you think, the way you read should be altogether different. Clear? So now, when you open the chapter, you can see a big story written there about a village, a hypothetical village. Normally, we all know that a village is a part of the rural sector of our economy. It will not have adequate facility. But in that particular chapter, it talks about what? The village is highly developed. All the people are educated. The people are having better medical facilities, highly skilled development. The village is having a very good infrastructure facility, etc. But then this is just to show you how a village or how a production setup should actually be altogether. That is why it is called as hypothetical village. So now from this particular chapter, what is important for you people as UPSC prelims and mains is concerned for the basic concept is just 4 important points. Just 4 important points. What is that? What are the factors of production? What are the factors of production? That is the only thing that you need. You can have a look over here. What are the factors of production? That is land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. Only to study these 4 points, they would have given a very long example and story of a village altogether. No matter you do agriculture, no matter you do farming or startup industry or anything else, the 4 basic factors of production is very important in an economy. And by the way, what is factors of production? It is nothing but their resources. Factors of production are nothing but the resources or the inputs which is required to produce a commodity or a service. Let's say, for example, you want to do something. You want to do farming. What is a basic requirement? You need a land, right? Now, having said that, when you want somebody to walk in that particular land, what do you need? You need labor. So now factors of production is nothing but it is an economic term or concept which makes you understand that they are the most important resources or the input that is required to produce a one particular final product or good in the economy. So there are 4 important factors of production. land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. So now, each of these factors of production will get a factor income. That is a return or income they get for whatever service they do. So land gets income, factor income or revenue in the form of rent. I want to do farming. Will you give your land for free? No. You better pay me rent, madam. Then I'll give you. Simple logic. So land gets what? Revenue in the form of rent. Now, people are working in the land. Will you all work for free if I'm hiring you people? No. You have to be paid some remuneration called as wages or salary. So labor gets what? Factor income in the form of wages. Now, though you have a land, though you have labor, to carry forward the activity, the farming or the business or any other activity, the basic requirement is money. In economics, in certain perspective, we call money as capital. So capital is not actually the capital of a state. Over here, under factors of production, it is important to understand that the meaning of capital is what? It is money here. So where will you get money? Will anybody give you money for free? Definitely no. Don't even think in your dreams. Even, your relatives will not give you for free today because it's so valuable. So now, what can be done? If you see capital, when you go to a bank or you go to anybody, people will give you money, but they will charge you interest. So capital or money, which is a factor of production, what do they get? They get revenue or factor income in the form of interest. And finally, with land, labor, capital, when a person is carrying forward the activity, economic activity, he or she is called as entrepreneur. They get profit or loss. Let's keep it profit. So these are the 4 important factors of production. LLCE, land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. And the revenue or the factor income is land, rent, labor, wages, capital, interest, entrepreneur, profit. Bas, ho gayi. You're done with class 9, chapter 1 of economy and CRT. This is the way to study. I just give an example to make it very clearly for the people who are extremely beginners. And also for the ones who know it, please change your approach and make it this approach. Save your time, energy, and make it to the point for preparation. That is important. Simply talking doesn't make a sense. It is about to the point preparation, 360-degree coverage of understanding the concepts and then applying it. Is it clear, my students? Having said that, why this is important? In this particular chapter, you can see the emphasis on the primary or the most important sector of the economy, that is agriculture. We all know that agriculture is indeed a very important sector for all of us, right? Yes, even today, if you see, agriculture is a sector where, majority of people are dependent. Previously, 60-70% of people was dependent on agriculture. Today, nearly 50%, 50, approximately 40, 49, 48 point some percent is dependent. Now, when majority of people are dependent on agriculture, the output or the contribution that they should give to the country's output, the country's output is actually GDP, gross domestic product. You will be studying all that when you join for the courses. Take care. So as of now, for you to understand the country's output or the GDP, gross domestic product, has a great impact on what? On these sectors. Whatever contribution they are giving will make your GDP or output increase or decrease. So from agriculture, when majority of people, or from primary sector, when majority of people are dependent, definitely the contribution should be, let's say, for example, at least more than 50%, or let's say less than 50% also, 30 to 40, okay, but not below that. You know what is the GDP contribution from primary sector? That is agriculture sector. It's very, very pathetic to say that it is only 1717 to 1818%. But now, as per 2022-23 current affairs is concerned, we have shown a slight improvement, but not huge improvement. Even though majority of people are dependent, I can tell you that the contribution to country's GDP from the primary sector is only 21.4%. Yes, we have improved to more than 20%, but still a lot more is to be done. So now this has a huge impact on understanding or calculating the country's output or growth, called as gross domestic product. Is it clear? So now this is the reason why you study this first chapter. And then again, you saw we studied the concept from NCERT, the importance of that in the comprehensive part of the syllabus, the second C of 3C approach, agriculture related, And now the trending current affairs. What is the percentage of that with regard to the country's GDP or growth? So this is how you will study. Is it very clear, my students? Crystal clear? Now, having said that, the same thing can be followed for every other topics as a whole. As far as economy is concerned, don't panic, don't get upset. Or, oh my goodness, I mean, you have so much to study as an AIA. It is all depending upon the way you approach it, the way we approach one particular subject and guidance that will be given to you. So we at KingMakers are very particular that not only me, every teacher who teaches economy or who teaches any other subject will make sure that your preparation is highly simplified. Nothing difficult, nothing too technical. Even though if it is so technical also, we are here to make it in the most simplified way, making sure that you are able to clear or ace your UPSC prelims and mains examination. So this is what we'll be doing here. So having said that, let's quickly have a look into economics in short. I think already Bhuminathan sir has told you, gave a clear-cut idea regarding all the subjects, the amount of questions that can come from each of the subject. In that, economics also he said, you know, this is very important. You know why? Kyun matlab? Why? Because in this particular subject, if you see, it is not one or two questions that come every year. If you see from 2015 on a continuous stretch or a row, you can expect 20 to 23, 25 questions from economy alone, coupled with current affairs coming for the examination. And there are certain areas or topics in economics which is very, very important. And economics is a subject which is highly interlinked. So you can't avoid one particular chapter and learn the other chapter. That is again the beautiful thing about economics. So you can't escape just like that. Having said that, if you see, there is something called as money and banking, which all of you would have heard about. So now the concepts on that, in that, the analysis of that, the applications of those concepts with the trending current affairs, you tend to get more number of questions repeatedly from that particular area. 60 to 70% of prelims question from economy is mostly from this area, highly interlinked to this particular area. So you cannot at any cost miss studying money and banking coupled along with inflation. So now this is the most important thing in economics. Is it clear? Now, having said that, now let's quickly go into what? A quick introduction to economics, because you should also know what is economics, right? Having said all this, it's very important to know what economics is all about. So you will be telling me economics is production, consumption, distribution, is it? So what is economics? I think I can't see your chats. I will try. Yes? Okay, anyways. So responses are coming. So now, as people said, economics could be production, could be consumption, could be distribution. Come on, keep everything aside. You know, economics, the subject, it is called as the queen of social sciences. You have your psychology, your sociology, your political science, you have your history, your geography, everything. Out of all these subjects, of which comes under the branch of social sciences, economics is the queen of social science. There is a reason for it. Why? Because it is the master brain behind every other subject. You have economics interlinked in all these subjects also. There is an economics which comes in sociology, which talks about the social welfare. When you talk about psychology, what does psychology have to do with economics, madam? Yes, it has. There is something called as behavioral economics that again comes from psychology perspective. There is something called as the, political economy, which is again interlinked to the political science perspective. And the list goes on like that. So that is why the subject economy is called as the queen of social sciences. Having said that, you can see so many definitions of economics, but I will quickly take you to the evolution of economics. Why? Because why? Because if you see in the context of economics, it is not a concept that evolved just like that. You can make a note of it. How did economics evolve? There was a person called as Adam Smith. You can have a look into his picture also. This is the gentleman, the great man who really brought economics into place. So if you see way back in the year 1776, a great legend called as Adam Smith, he's the one who literally said there is something called as economics. We have to mold the so-called economics in a proper way. So what did he do? He wrote a book, and the name of the book is An Inquiry into the Nature and causes of wealth of nations. I repeat, an inquiry into the nature and causes of wealth of nations. So now he actually wrote in this particular book, way back in the year 1776, he literally explained about the concept economics as the creation of wealth. Economics, according to him, was nothing but creation of wealth or the wealth creation. So Adam Smith is called as what? The father of economics, because he's the one who took an initiative to introduce economics as a whole. But according to him, economics deals only with wealth creation, nothing else. You have wealth, I have wealth. Based on that, we calculate economic development. No, it cannot be the case. But that particular point of time or that particular period of time, that is how the civilization was. That is how the economy was structured. You understand, especially in the West. So now, due to which he said that economy is for whom? Just for the people having the wealth perspective. Or let's say we will only take into consideration the wealth scenarios. But there is something called as, other perspective also. You may have wealth, the other person may also have wealth, but the ratios could differ. Just because somebody is having wealth inherited from the ancestral property or what they created does not really show the capacity of the economy, whether we are growing or not growing. So there were some kind of criticisms to this particular definition also. And also, if you talk about Adam Smith, who actually put forward the wealth definition of economics, I also want to tell you that it was not complete. So Adam Smith, being the father of economics, he gave wealth definition. Economics is the wealth of nations. That was again criticized by another economist after some years, and his name was Alfred Marshall. And his name was Alfred Marshall. What did he say? Mr. Alfred Marshall said that, come on, wealth is good, but you cannot always say that, economics is always about wealth. Why don't we include the aspect of welfare into it? What is it? Welfare. Welfare matlab kya hai? Welfare matlab the well-being of the people with better facilities, with better socio-welfare perspectives, right? So apart from wealth, economics is all about, or it also talks about the study of socio-economic welfare. So he propagated the welfare concept of economics. That was Alfred Marshall. Now, after some years, again, there was something missing in economics. So another person called as one Mr. Lionel Robbins. Think about Lion, you will get Lionel Robbins. So one person called as Lionel Robbins. What did he do? Mr. Lionel Robbins said, of course, welfare. Wow, amazing. Good definitions. But something is still missing. Taking into consideration what is happening in our, economy over the years. So if you see, what did he say is that Mr. Lionel Robbins, he gave more emphasis on something called as scarcity. What is scarcity? See, in economics, scarcity means limitation. We don't say the word limited or limitation in economics. We tend to use the word scarce or scarcity. So hereafter, when you want to say something is limited or scarce in economic terms, you can use it scarce or scarcity. Okay. So Lionel Robbins propagated the scarcity definition of economics. What is that? The limited definition. And what happened, in that particular definition, he said that wealth is there, welfare is there. But what is happening? Chalo, let's take the case of our country, India. So much of population, one of the highly populated country we are, right? So now, though population is a good thing also, are we able to provide food for the growing population? That is a very important thing to be discussed. Am I right? Yes. So now the resources to satisfy the growing population is limited or it is scarce in quantity. So something has to be done. So the government cannot say, listen, we have only limited resource. Let's say, for example, there are 10 people and there is only 3 kg of rice. Can you provide this 3 kg of rice for this 10 people for 2 days, 3 times, very, very holistically? No, completely no. It is not satisfying, right? So now you think from the country perspective. So now the government cannot say no to it. They have to do something to feed the larger population, no matter the resource is scarce or limited. So what do we do? Now, in the scarcity definition put forward by Mr. Lionel Robbins, what did he say? He said that how to make limited or scarce resource at the maximum level. No matter the resource is scarce, there is something called as maximum utilization of the limited resources. To put it in economic terms, maximum is called as optimum. What is it? Optimum. So now the optimum or maximum utilization of limited or scarce resources to the fullest. That is what Lionel Robbins said. And this makes a sense, don't you think so? Yes, this definition compared to wealth and welfare makes some sense, man. Yes, it does make. That is the definition given by Lionel Robbins, called as scarcity definition. And now, finally, there was another person called as one Mr. Samuelson. His name is Paul Samuelson. Now, what did Mr. Paul Samuelson say? He said that economics is all about production, consumption, distribution, investment, sab kuch like that, which will enable our country to grow to greater heights. And he is called as the father of modern economics. So this is how economics evolved over the years. There is a reason why I told you this, because people start studying macro economics just like that, without even knowing what economics is all about. They tend to get confused with wealth, welfare, scarcity definitions many a times. So this is the very basics which actually you should know. It is not available in any NCERT textbook, but I'm just telling you so you'll be able to understand. Is it clear? Starting from Adam Smith, father of economics, wealth definition, Alfred Marshall, welfare definition, Lionel Robbins, scarcity definition, and Paul Samuelson, growth definition. This is the evolution of economics. If you're done with this, open your class 11 and 12 economy textbook, and here we are. The two important branches of economics. Your entire Indian economy is divided, or let's say the entire economics is divided into two perspectives. There is something called as subject matter of economics. Take it. Microeconomics, macroeconomics. Your class 11, which talks about the Indian economic development, all current affairs and what happened before independence, after independence in the NCERT, you will study. That is Indian economic development. Whereas class 12 economy NCERT, the basics, it has micro and macro. Chapter 1 to 6 is microeconomics. After that, you can see macroeconomics to some extent. Not everything is included, but whatever is required for the school level has been given. So you need to, develop. Why? Because you are studying for UPSC, not for school, right? So now the two important subject matter or the major divisions or branches of economics is micro and macroeconomics. What is micro? Chalo, we all know. Chota wala hai na, small, something that is small in nature. Macro matlab bada hai, or let's something it's big. So now in economics, if you say microeconomics, when you deal with small or individual economic units, let's say, for example, what is your demand? What is your supply for one particular product? What are you producing at your industry? So now when you start analyzing or understanding things from the micro or individual level, that is called as microeconomics in simple terms. Is it clear? So microeconomics deals with individual economic households or units. And the example of microeconomics is theory of demand, theory of supply, theory of interest rate. All these are small specifications, right? It has a huge impact individually. And now it is very, very specific and smaller in nature. You understand? Let's say, for example, when you want to know about the growth of an individual company, is it progressing or not progressing? What is that? Economics. So microeconomics deals with the functioning of individual economic units. What about macro? Just the opposite. All these individuals, 10 individuals together, 10 markets together, 10 demands together, give you a very big figure, a wholesome figure, right? So now macroeconomics deals with the functioning of the economy as a whole. When you deal with big problems like poverty, unemployment, international trade, export, import, what are they? It is affecting the entire country as a whole. Am I right? So now that is what is called as macroeconomics. It is very, very wider or broader in nature. It is, as I told you, it is very, very wider or broader in nature. So now compared to micro and macroeconomics, which is important? Of course, both are equally important. Some people will say, ma'am, micro is small, macro is very big. So then macro is more important. As I know, it's not like that. See, from small, you go to big. From the minute steps, you go to greater steps. Similarly, both micro and macroeconomics, they are highly interdependent or they are highly related. Without the existence of microeconomics, you cannot have the so-called results of macroeconomics. If you want to know the poverty rate or unemployment rate or the issue happening with regard to these two social evils, you should know individually what is happening. For you to have an analysis at a country level, then compare the country India at the international level, right? So now micro and macro equally important. Microeconomics is nothing but decentralized or grassroots understanding, something called as bottom up, top down approach. Matlab, you where and understand from the bottom level, you start with micro. What about macro? It is not from the bottom level. It is from the top level. It is a top down approach, whereas micro is a bottom up approach. So this is what you should know with regard to micro and macro economics. Your national income, your inflation, your money, your banking, your agri, your industry, what are they? All these are coming under the so-called macroeconomics. But when you study theory of demand, theory of supply, market equilibrium, when you study about productions and all, that is microeconomics. I hope it is crystal clear. Yes, my young officers? Good, good. Great hearing that. Having said that, again in economics, it's very important when you study the introduction to talk about the basic sectors. The basic sectors. There are three important sectors in our country, India. Primary, secondary, tertiary. And now, in this primary, secondary, tertiary, it is very important to understand that using the 3C method of approach, concept plus comprehensive part plus trending current affairs. This is the basic, but UPSC expects you to understand from the advanced level, from the current affairs perspective, right? For that, you should know the basics. That is very important. So now, what is primary sector? We all know the most important sector. One particular word, primary sector is nothing but the agriculture sector. But let me tell you, two more extra points. Primary sector consists of course, agriculture sector. Along with what? Along with allied activities also. That is agriculture sector, matlab farming and other allied activity. ALLIED. Take, you can note it down. So now what is allied? Allied matlab related activity. In economics, we don't say related activity. We say allied activity. So primary sector consists of activities such as agriculture, your farming, and related or allied activity. Apart from farming, people also do what? Forestry, fishing, mining, quarrying. You understand? All these comes under what? Dairying, poultry. All these come under what? Come under primary sector of the economy. So people think only farming is agriculture. No. You sow for 6 months, wait for your harvest for another 6 months. What will the people do? They'll simply sit at home? No. They'll immediately switch on to related activities like going fishing activities, forestry activity, mining. Then they can go for dairy, poultry, sab kuch like that. So all these activities comes under what? The primary sector of the economy, basically in the context of rural sector. Now, previously, the concept called energy or the factor called energy. Normally, energy sector comes under industrial sector because we produce it, right? Or secondary sector of the economy. But it is important to note that extraction or getting energy at the initial stage, that is extraction of energy. Energy extraction comes under primary sector of the economy. It is very, very important. In many textbooks, it is given wrongly also. Energy extraction, they given in secondary sector. It is wrong. Energy extraction comes under primary sector of the economy. Okay? And transformation of energy, you process it, right? And convert it. That is secondary stage. That comes under what? Secondary sector or industrial sector of the economy. Please make a note of this. It's very important. Now, having said that, what is the next sector? Primary is done. Next is what? Your secondary sector. In simple terms, what is that? It is called as manufacturing or industrial sector. All your, whatever you are producing comes under the secondary, comes under the secondary or the industrial sector. So now, having said that, your electricity, your crude oils, your natural gas, all these things, subcut, including energy transformation, all these comes where they come under the secondary sector of the economy, your industry, your building, subcut. Okay. So now, having said that, it is also important to understand that this sector also has a decent number of population dependent upon it, but not too much compared to primary sector. And now what is tertiary sector? Chalo, tertiary matlab in simple terms, service sector. What am I doing now? I am taking a class for you. I am teaching you people. So what am I doing? I'm doing a service, right? I'm not producing a good directly, but I'm imparting skills or I am teaching you or training you, right? So now Tertiary sector is that sector called as service sector. It is a sector which helps in the production of the above two sectors. What are they? A sector which helps in the development of primary and secondary sector is called as tertiary sector in simple terms. The service of a teacher, doctor, lawyer, all these comes under what? Service sector. Then other examples is what? Banking, insurance, communication, transport, sab kuch, education, all these comes under tertiary sector. So now, having understood this, these are the three most important sectors of the economy. But as time passed by, it is also important to know that this very basic concept of economics is also developed. There are some current affairs added to it in the context that these three sectors of economy was closely viewed by experts. And they said that this tertiary sector is very, very, very big. We have to do something for it. Actually, majority of people in our country, India, even today, depends upon what? Depends upon primary sector of the economy, that is agriculture. But the contribution, as I told you before, the contribution from this particular sector to the country's output or GDP is not up to mark. Though it has improved to 20% also, currently it is only how much? 21.4 to 8%. Okay, let's keep it 21%. Now, a lot more has to be done to improve this particular sector, right? That is why the government come with so many schemes, policies, programs like that. Now, what about secondary? Chalo, a decent number of people depends upon secondary sector of the economy or industrial sector. And I can tell you that the contribution is not too high. Actually, previously, it was high like 28 and 30%. Now, though, abhi kya hua? Abhi it has come down to 24%. Okay, it is kind of progressing a little bit. Now, that is the contribution I'm telling you from this sector to country's output or GDP. What about tertiary sector, service sector? Again, a large number of crowd or population depends upon service sector in our country, India. But the number is less than the ones who are depending upon the primary sector. That is important to note. But in spite of that, it's very interesting to know that the largest contribution for a country, India's GDP, comes from where? Comes from the tertiary or the service sector of the economy. Is it clear? Why? Because more than 50% of the contribution comes from service sector. Approximately 53% as of 2022-23 data. But where can you see majority of people depending? Majority of people are depending upon agriculture. But the contribution should be from that. But what is happening? The highest contribution is from the tertiary service sector. And you know what is the reason for that? See, when you want to grow and develop, mostly investments called as FDI. Again, the next method of interlinkaging. So from tertiary, we went to FDI. What is FDI? Foreign direct investment. That is the amount of money that a country, India, receives from another country for any development activity. And if we are giving to some other country, it goes as the FDI, foreign direct investments of that particular country. Okay. So now, most of investments or FDI used to come to a country, India, to this sector called as tertiary. Because the booming sector in service or tertiary sector, there is your IT and software. That is information technology and software. So majority of investments started coming in that. That is one of the reasons why, again, more than 50% of contribution from service sector from service sector is going to a country's GDP, making it the highest contribution. Is it clear? So now these are the most important sectors of the economy. The concept we saw, the activities we saw, and the current affairs also we saw. What are the percentage contribution of these sectors to the country's output or GDP? This is the way you should study it, other than by hearting what is primary, secondary, tertiary. That is for your school level or college level. But for UPSC, the sector plus the concept plus connecting them with the trend in current affairs and its application, because that is what UPSC expects from you. Now, to add more to this, I told you about tertiary sector. But these days, because tertiary sector is so big, it's kind of booming like anything. What did the experts do? They divided the tertiary sector into two classifications. It is not available in your NCRTs, so you can just make a note of it. Take care. Currently, tertiary sector is classified or subdivided into two sectors. What are they? One is quaternary sector. Other is quinary sector. Very simple. So many activities are there. So let's say, for example, your education, your the research and development, your IT, your management, or your innovation department, all these are quite big. Hannah. So now, to give more emphasis and focus on certain sectors like R&D, research and development, they said that we have to categorize them under another sector called as quaternary sector. It is also coming under tertiary sector or service sector. Just one subdivision to give important focus to these areas, because R&D, research and development, is very, very, very important these days. You cannot think of development without R&D. That requires huge focus and huge importance. Then management, administration activity, distributions, then innovation. All these activities are coming under quaternary sector. Your IT, information technology related as well. Now, the next is called as quinary sector. All the activities, again, like education. Education is too big again, right? What all schemes and policies are put forward by a country, India and government to improve it even today. Why? Because again, the next trending related concept of current affairs. Why? Because if you talk about education, called as literacy rate. What is it? Literacy rate. In economics, we call like that. Okay. It is not that huge. If you see the overall literacy rate as per recent data, 2022-23 data for a country, India, it is only near about 74%. This is a national average. Okay. But if you see some Indian states, they do perform better. No doubt in that. No doubt in that. If you see, there is an exception to the state of Kerala, the God's own country, because not because I'm a native of that place. I'm just telling you the reality. Okay? Don't think, acha, ma'am is from Kerala, na? She's born there, so she will tell that. Aisa nahi hai. Mera pura zindagi matlab I've spent in Delhi only, so no worries. If you see, the overall literacy rate is 74%. But then if you see, with regard to Indian states, the state of Kerala ranked number 1 with regard to literacy. It is even crossing the national average, because national level only 74% is India's literacy rate. But you know what is Kerala's literacy rate? It is more than 90%. Very interesting, right? It ranks number 1 for the so-called literacy rate, because it has a good, educational perspective. The people over there, kind of very much interested in education. And a small secret I'll tell you. It is not only because of that, my young officers, anybody who knows to read and write is considered to be a literate. So in Kerala, that is highly propagated. Even you can see at the age of 80, 90 also, some very, very old people, old women and men, they get the literate certificate. It's a beautiful thing, right? That is also one factor why literacy is high. And now adding more surprise, if you see, female literacy rate. In our country, India, always male literacy rate is more high compared to female literacy rate. But again, there is an exception to the state of Kerala. Female literacy rate is also more than 90%. Wow, amazing, right? So now Indian states are also doing great, followed by Himachal, followed by Tamil Nadu, Himachal, and even your, northeastern states like Mizoram and all. They also do pretty good for literacy. Okay. Now, having said that, why I spoke about this data is because we saw the keyword education. That comes under the tertiary or service sector. But to give a more emphasis, it is subdivided under what? Under quinary sector, which comes under tertiary sector. So all the cultural activities, your media, your film, your entertainment, your education, art-related activities, sab kuch is coming under quinary sector, and they do the analysis. What is the revenue they get? How it is performing well? What all to be done? Because these are all booming, right? That is why. So these are the different sectors of economy, along with the highlighted, current affairs as a whole. Is it very clear? So I hope you also understood quaternary and quinary as well in this particular session. So when you study economy, this is very, very, very important, my young officers. You need to have a very clear-cut understanding of these topics. And similarly, you should also know about the different types of economic system. Quickly, I'll tell you what is it. We have capitalism, socialism, communalism. What is capitalism? When complete control is by the individual or the private players. In economics, we don't say individual people, we say players. We use the term players. Okay? So when the government is having no or very less control, there is very less intervention by the government in the economic activity or decision. Whereas majority of the decisions or majority of the activities controlled by the private sectors or individual players, That kind of economic system is called as capitalist economies. You would have heard US. What is US? America, right? They are a capitalist economy where the government intervention is not that much. So this is the real meaning of capitalism. But if you see currently, capitalism has another dimension also. You cannot completely say that government does not take care. The government do interfere currently in the capitalist economy to some extent, not completely, but they do have a say. They do have a look into what it is. But as for the real definition of the different types of economic system in our country, in entire globe, I can tell you that capitalism does not propagate government interference. It is called as a free market economy. What is it? Free market economy. In economics, there is something called as laissez-faire. Laissez-faire matlab, it is a French word put forward by Adam Smith again. Laissez-faire matlab, free market economy. Less of government intervention. That's it, nothing else. Is it clear? And the example for that is US. Now, next is socialism, just the opposite of capitalism, wherein you have majority of the economic decisions and activities of production, consumption, other things controlled by the government. But in socialistic or socialism, I can tell you that private people also can make some decisions. It is not like they're completely ignored. In capitalism also, only little of interference. Similarly, here in socialism, majority of the control goes with the government, but individuals are also giving some space to take decisions. Take care. Whereas communalism, oh my goodness. Communalism is just something like a command economy. Somebody will tell you or dictate you should do it. Where no private individuals or players can have a choice in the economic decision making as to what to produce, what to distribute, what industry to start, nothing. Completely it goes under the hands of government. Command economy. And we all know the example of communist economy, right? China, as all of us know. And as far as our country, India is concerned, we are not a capitalist nor a communist economy. Rather, we have both public and private sector coexisting together. So that is why we are called as a mixed economy. And today, if you see, right from independence time, PPP, from the plannings, first 5-year plans, the concept of public-private partnership is propagated. Even today, if you see in many sectors, public-private participation is of utmost importance, because lack of necessary funds or money with the government, we need to incorporate with the private individuals also under the so-called model that is PPP, public-private partnership. So that is why we are called as mixed economy, and we are kind of democratic again. So then, such kind of capitalism and communalism doesn't work with us. Is it clear? So these are the different types of economic system, just for you to know. And this PPP is also important. Why? Because you will study many things pertaining to PPP when you come for, your mains classes. Is it clear? The PCM batch when you come. So I hope it is crystal clear for you people. Any doubt, any queries that you have? And when you study economics, my young officers, please keep 2 things in mind. You have to study using the so-called 3C approach. There is no way in which you can avoid the 3C approach. It is very important to follow that. And these are the very basic things that you should actually understand when you study economics. Is it clear? Any doubts, any queries? Quick, fatafat you can ask me. 30 seconds I'll give you, because the next faculty, Kaushik sir, is waiting. Another very eminent faculty is there to come and tell you more about another subject as well. Yes. So I hope the session was quite refreshing for you people to have a quick look into the strategy of economics and also understanding how to study from the scratch, connecting it with current affairs, and also a look into the basic concepts in the UPSC manner. Yeah. Thank you so much, and Jai Hind.
Yeah, thank you, Nisha. The session was really very interesting and informative, and you have made the economics as simple as possible. I'm sure you have created the interest. The students, those who have attended, they are all eagerly waiting to listen to you for the rest of the module. So thank you so much for your association.